At 3 in the morning, a windless night wraps an isolated house in complete silence. A young lion lying on the porch suddenly lifts his head and sniffs the air intently. Inside, a baby sleeps deeply as a thin smoke starts creeping into the room. The lion pushes open the back door, enters, and walks straight to the crib without making a sound. He opens his mouth slightly, grabs the blanket with his teeth, and drags the baby through the hall. A silent blast bursts the light bulb above the door, illuminating the smoke spreading across the ceiling. Outside, under a tree, the lion lies next to the baby. As in the background, a bedroom window bursts into flames. At that very moment, the parents wake up coughing, look out the window, and panic. Love stories with animals? Then subscribe now and never miss one. Thanks for following us. Now, back to our story. The Montana sky stretched endlessly above the Thompson Ranch, painted in shades of amber and crimson as the sun began its descent behind the Rocky Mountains. Michael Thompson stood on the wraparound porch of his family's sprawling log home, watching as his wife Jessica gently rocked their 3-month-old daughter Emma in her arms. The evening air carried the scent of pine and wildflowers from the surrounding wilderness preserve that bordered their property. "She's finally settling down," Jessica whispered, her voice soft with the tender exhaustion that comes with new motherhood. Her auburn hair caught the golden light as she swayed back and forth, humming a lullaby that her own mother had sung to her decades ago in their small Vermont town. Michael smiled, his weathered hands gripping the porch railing. At 35, he had built this life from nothing more than a dream and an inheritance from his grandfather. The ranch sprawled across 200 acres of pristine Montana wilderness, legally designated as a private wildlife preserve. It was here that he and Jessica had chosen to raise their family, far from the chaos of city life, surrounded by nature's raw beauty and untamed spirit. As if summoned by the peaceful moment, a magnificent golden form emerged from the tree line. Rex padded silently across the meadow, his powerful muscles rippling beneath his tawny coat. The African lion moved with the grace and confidence of a king, yet his amber eyes held a gentleness that seemed to contradict his wild heritage. "There's our boy," Michael said, his voice filled with warmth. Rex had been part of their family for nearly 4 years now, ever since that fateful day when wildlife officials had called Michael about an orphaned cub found abandoned at a roadside zoo in Nevada. As a licensed wildlife rehabilitation specialist, Michael had initially planned to care for Rex temporarily before transferring him to a proper sanctuary. But fate had other plans. Rex approached the porch with measured steps, his massive head tilted slightly as he observed the small bundle in Jessica's arms. The lion had witnessed Emma's arrival home from the hospital 3 months ago, and since then, he had appointed himself as her unofficial guardian. He would spend hours lying near the nursery window, his keen senses alert to every sound from within the house. "He knows she's special," Jessica murmured, watching as Rex settled onto his favorite spot on the porch, his gaze never leaving the baby. "Sometimes I think he understands more than we give him credit for." Michael nodded, remembering the countless hours he had spent training and bonding with Rex. The lion's intelligence was remarkable, surpassing anything Michael had experienced. In his years working with various wildlife species, Rex seemed to understand human emotion, responding to their moods with an almost supernatural intuition. The ranch house itself was a testament to Michael's commitment to creating a safe environment for both his family and Rex. Built with reinforced materials and designed with multiple safety features, every room had been carefully planned. The nursery, located on the ground floor at the back of the house, featured specially designed windows and a state-of-the-art ventilation system to ensure Emma's comfort and security. As darkness began to creep across the landscape, Jessica rose from her chair, cradling Emma closer to her chest. "I should put her down for the night," she said, though there was reluctance in her voice. Like all new mothers, she found it difficult to let go, even for a few hours of sleep. Rex lifted his massive head, watching intently as Jessica moved toward the front door. His behavior had become increasingly protective since Emma's birth, though he maintained a respectful distance, seeming to understand the delicate nature of the tiny human he had taken under his wing. Inside the house, the warmth of the wood-burning fireplace created a cozy atmosphere. Family photographs lined the mantelpiece, chronicling Michael and Jessica's journey from their college days at Montana State University to their wedding day, and finally to the recent addition of Emma to their family. Rex appeared in many of the photos, often positioned protectively near Jessica during her pregnancy. The nursery was Jessica's pride and joy, decorated in soft pastels with hand-painted murals of woodland creatures adorning the walls. An antique rocking chair that had belonged to Michael's grandmother sat in the corner, while a modern crib occupied the center of the room. Every detail had been carefully chosen to create a sanctuary of peace and love for their daughter. As Jessica placed Emma in her crib, the baby stirred slightly, her tiny fist curling around her mother's finger. The moment was pure magic, filled with the kind of unconditional love that transforms ordinary people into devoted parents willing to sacrifice everything for their child's well-being. Outside, Rex had taken his usual evening position near the back porch, close enough to the nursery to hear any sound from within, yet far enough to respect the family's privacy. His routine was unwavering, a testament to his loyalty and the deep bond he shared with the Thompson family. Michael joined his wife in the nursery, wrapping his arms around her as they both gazed down at their sleeping daughter. "She's perfect," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I can't believe how much our lives have changed since she arrived." Jessica leaned back against her husband's chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "Do you ever worry about raising her out here, so far from everything?" she asked, voicing a concern that had been growing in her mind since Emma's birth. "Sometimes," Michael admitted, "but then I think about what we're giving her: space to grow, clean air to breathe, and the chance to understand that we're part of something bigger than ourselves. Plus, she'll have the best protector anyone could ask for." Through the nursery window, they could see Rex's silhouette against the star-filled sky. The lion sat motionless, his attention focused on the house, his powerful presence both comforting and awe-inspiring. The evening routine continued as it had for months. Jessica checked the baby monitor system that connected the nursery to their bedroom, while Michael secured the house for the night. Though in their remote location, crime was virtually non-existent. The greatest dangers came from nature itself, weather extremes, and the occasional wildlife that wandered too close to the house. As they prepared for bed, neither Michael nor Jessica could have imagined that this peaceful evening would be their last for quite some time. The tranquil rhythm of their lives, built carefully over years of planning and love, was about to be tested in ways they never could have anticipated. Rex remained at his post outside, his senses far more acute than those of his human family. The night air carried scents and sounds imperceptible to human awareness, and somewhere in the vast Montana wilderness, forces were already in motion that would soon challenge everything the Thompson family held dear. The first light of dawn painted the Montana sky in soft pink hues as Michael Thompson made his way to the kitchen, his bare feet silent on the hardwood floors. The house was still enveloped in the peaceful quiet that comes just before the world awakens. Through the large windows, he could see Rex rising from his sleeping position near the back porch, stretching his massive frame with the fluid grace that never failed to amaze Michael. Coffee was brewing in the automatic machine, a small luxury that Jessica had insisted upon when they moved to the ranch. "If I'm going to live in the middle of nowhere," she had said with a laugh, "I at least want good coffee first thing in the morning." The rich aroma filled the kitchen as Michael checked the various monitors and systems that kept their home running smoothly. The ranch house was equipped with modern technology despite its rustic appearance. Solar panels provided most of their electricity, backed up by a generator for emergencies. A sophisticated security system monitored the perimeter, though it was designed more to track wildlife movements than prevent human intrusion. Various sensors throughout the house monitored everything from temperature to air quality, ensuring optimal conditions for both human and animal inhabitants. Michael's attention was drawn to a small indicator light on the electrical panel that seemed to flicker intermittently. He made a mental note to have the local electrician, Tom Henderson, come out to check the system. Living in such a remote location meant that every piece of equipment needed to function perfectly, as getting repairs done quickly was often challenging. Jessica appeared in the doorway, Emma cradled in her arms. Even in the early morning light, Jessica looked radiant, though Michael could see the gentle fatigue in her eyes. Motherhood had transformed her in ways that went beyond the physical, bringing out a fierce protectiveness and boundless capacity for love that sometimes overwhelmed them both. "She slept through the night again," Jessica announced with a smile of relief. "I think we might actually be getting the hang of this parenting thing." Michael poured 2 cups of coffee, adding a splash of cream to Jessica's cup just the way she liked it. "Rex stayed right outside her window all night," he observed, watching through the window as the lion began his morning patrol of the property perimeter. "I swear that animal has appointed himself as Emma's personal bodyguard." The morning routine unfolded with comfortable familiarity. Jessica fed Emma while Michael prepared breakfast, the domestic symphony of a young family finding its rhythm. Outside, Rex moved through his own morning ritual, checking scent markers around the property boundaries and investigating any changes from the previous day. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, their veterinarian, and one of the few people who truly understood their unique living situation, had explained that Rex's behavior was not uncommon among lions in the wild when it came to protecting young members of their pride. "He's essentially adopted Emma as his cub," she had told them during her last visit. "His protective instincts are completely natural, even if the circumstances are extraordinary." As the morning progressed, Michael attended to various ranch duties while Jessica worked on her freelance graphic design projects from her home office. The internet connection, though sometimes unreliable due to their remote location, allowed her to maintain her career while raising Emma. It was a delicate balance, but one that gave them the financial stability to maintain their lifestyle. The nursery had become the center of their world, and Jessica had spared no expense in making it perfect. The room featured a temperature control system that maintained optimal conditions day and night, along with a humidifier to combat the dry Montana air. A variety of electronic devices helped monitor Emma's sleep patterns and breathing, providing peace of mind for first-time parents living far from immediate medical assistance. Rex's daily routine included several visits to the area around the nursery. He would position himself near the window, his keen hearing picking up sounds that human ears couldn't detect. The lion had developed an uncanny ability to sense Emma's moods and needs, often alerting Jessica to the baby's awakening before the monitors did. In the afternoon, Jessica received a call from her sister Rachel in Denver. "How's life in the wilderness?" Rachel asked, her voice carrying the gentle teasing that had characterized their relationship since childhood. "Are you sure you're not going crazy out there with just Michael and that lion for company?" Jessica laughed, adjusting her phone as she watched Emma sleep peacefully in her crib. "It's actually incredibly peaceful," she replied. "Emma is thriving, and Rex is like having the world's most devoted babysitter. Sometimes I think he cares about her more than we do." "I still can't believe you're raising a baby with a lion in the backyard," Rachel said, though her tone had shifted to one of admiration. "Mom and Dad are constantly worried, but I have to admit, the photos you send are amazing. That lion really does seem to adore Emma." The conversation continued for another hour, with Jessica sharing stories about Emma's development and Rex's increasingly protective behavior. She didn't mention the small concerns that had been growing in her mind. The occasional flickering lights, the strange sound she'd heard from the electrical panel the previous week, or the way Rex sometimes seemed restless during the night, as if sensing something she couldn't detect. As evening approached, the family settled into their familiar routine. Dinner was a quiet affair, with Emma sleeping in a portable bassinet nearby, while Michael and Jessica discussed plans for expanding the wildlife preserve. They had been approached by a conservation group interested in partnering with them to create a larger sanctuary for rescued animals. "It would mean more responsibility," Michael said, his voice thoughtful. "But it could also provide better funding for Rex's care and potentially help other animals in need." Jessica nodded, though part of her was reluctant to change their peaceful existence. "As long as Emma's safety is never compromised," she said, "she has to be our first priority." Rex, as if sensing the discussion, appeared at the back door, his amber eyes fixed on the family inside. Michael opened the door, and the lion padded in with his usual quiet confidence. Despite his size and wild heritage, Rex moved through the house with remarkable care, always aware of his surroundings and the fragile human life he had sworn to protect. The Tillul evening passed peacefully, with Rex taking his customary position on the living room floor while the family relaxed. Jessica worked on a new design project while Michael read a book about wildlife conservation. Emma slept contentedly in her bassinet, occasionally stirring but remaining peaceful throughout the evening. As they prepared for bed, Michael once again noticed the flickering light on the electrical panel. The intermittent nature of the problem made it difficult to diagnose, and he made a firm decision to call Tom Henderson first thing in the morning. In the house filled with electronic equipment and powered by a complex system of solar panels and backup generators, electrical issues were nothing to ignore. Jessica performed her nightly check of the nursery, ensuring that all monitors were functioning properly and that Emma was comfortable for the night. The baby monitor system was state-of-the-art, with video and audio feeds that connected to both their bedroom and Jessica's phone, providing constant oversight of their precious daughter. Rex followed his established routine, making his way to his sleeping area near the back porch. The lion's position allowed him to monitor both the nursery window and the main entrances to the house, a strategic choice that spoke to his intelligence and dedication to protecting his adopted family. Neither Michael nor Jessica realized that this ordinary evening was about to become anything but routine. The small electrical issue that Michael had noticed was part of a larger problem developing within the house's complex systems, a problem that would soon test the bonds of love and loyalty that held their unusual family together. The third week of September brought an unexpected visitor to the Thompson Ranch. Dr. James Harrison, a renowned animal behaviorist from the University of Montana, had driven nearly 3 hours through winding mountain roads to study the extraordinary relationship between Rex and the Thompson family. His silver hair was disheveled from the long journey, but his eyes sparkled with the curiosity of a scientist about to witness something remarkable. "I've studied predator-human relationships for over 20 years, Dr. Harrison explained as he set up his equipment in the living room, but I've never encountered a documented case quite like this. The protective behavior Rex has exhibited toward your daughter defies conventional understanding of interspecies bonding." Michael watched through the window as Rex lounged in his favorite spot near the nursery, his massive head resting on his paws, but his eyes alert and focused. "He's been like this since the day we brought Emma home from the hospital," Michael said. "At first, we thought it was just curiosity, but his behavior has become increasingly purposeful." Jessica emerged from the nursery, having just put Emma down for her afternoon nap. "Sometimes I feel like he understands her better than we do," she admitted. Yesterday, he started pacing outside the nursery window a full 5 minutes before. She woke up crying. The baby monitor hadn't even picked up any sound yet. Dr. Harrison nodded thoughtfully, making notes in his leather-bound journal. Lions are remarkably intelligent creatures with complex social structures. In the wild, they form deep emotional bonds with their pride members, particularly when it comes to protecting cubs. What's extraordinary here is that Rex has essentially adopted your family as his pride, with Emma as the youngest member requiring his protection. The afternoon was spent observing Rex's behavior patterns. Dr. Harrison documented the lion's movements, noting how he positioned himself strategically around the property to maintain visual and auditory contact with the house. Most remarkably, Rex seemed to have developed an internal clock synchronized with Emma's feeding and sleeping schedule. His awareness of Emma's routines is almost supernatural, Dr. Harrison observed, as Rex rose from his resting position exactly 2 minutes before Emma's scheduled feeding time. This level of attunement suggests an emotional connection that goes far beyond mere proximity. As if to prove the point, Emma's cry echoed through the baby monitor, and Rex immediately moved to his position beneath the nursery window, his presence offering silent comfort to the household. Jessica went to tend to the baby while Michael and Dr. Harrison continued their discussion. "The unique environment you've created here has allowed for this unprecedented bond to develop," Dr. Harrison explained. Rex was raised from cubhood in direct contact with humans, experiencing consistent care and affection. Unlike lions in captivity who maintain their wild instincts through limited human contact, Rex has essentially been socialized as a member of your family unit. The conversation was interrupted by Tom Henderson, the local electrician who had finally arrived to investigate the electrical issues Michael had been experiencing. Tom, a weathered man in his 50s with grease-stained work clothes and a toolbox that looked like it had seen decades of service, nodded politely to Dr. Harrison before focusing on Michael. "Sorry, it took me so long to get out here," Tom apologized. "Been swamped with storm damage repairs throughout the county. Let's take a look at what's been giving you trouble." Michael led Tom to the electrical panel, pointing out the intermittent flickering lights and describing the occasional power fluctuations he'd noticed. Tom's experienced eye immediately identified several potential problem areas, including some aging wiring that predated the solar panel installation. "The good news is, it's not immediately dangerous," Tom assured them. "But you've got some connections that are starting to wear out, probably due to the temperature changes and the complex load from all your monitoring equipment. I'd recommend updating the wiring in the nursery area first, since that's where you've got the most sensitive electronics." While Tom worked on diagnosing the electrical issues, Dr. Harrison continued his behavioral observations. He was particularly fascinated by Rex's response to Emma's sounds, noting how the lion's ears would perk up at the slightest sound from the nursery, even when the baby monitor didn't register anything unusual. His hearing is at least 4 times more acute than human hearing, Dr. Harrison explained to Jessica. He can detect sounds and frequencies that we can't even perceive. In essence, he's monitoring Emma's well-being at a level that exceeds any electronic system you could install. The afternoon progressed with Tom working on the electrical repairs, while Dr. Harrison completed his observations. The electrician's work was thorough but time-consuming, requiring him to access wiring in various parts of the house. As he worked in the nursery, Emma remained peacefully asleep, seemingly undisturbed by the gentle sounds of his repairs. "This old wiring is more fragile than I thought," Tom muttered as he worked behind the nursery's electrical panel. "Some of these connections are barely holding together. It's a wonder you haven't had more serious problems." Dr. Harrison was preparing to leave when Rex exhibited a behavior that caught everyone's attention. The lion, who had been calmly observing the day's activities, suddenly stood up and began pacing near the back door, his body language indicating a level of agitation that none of them had seen before. "That's unusual," Michael observed, studying Rex's behavior. "He's normally very calm during the day." Dr. Harrison immediately began documenting Rex's actions, noting the change in the lion's demeanor. "His instincts are telling him something," the behaviorist said. "Lions have extraordinary sensory capabilities that allow them to detect changes in their environment that humans miss entirely." Jessica joined them at the window, Emma in her arms. "He's been a little restless for the past few days," she admitted. "I thought it might be because of all the visitors, but maybe it's something else." Tom emerged from the nursery, wiping his hands on a rag. "I've done what I can for today," he announced. "The immediate problems are fixed, but I'm going to need to come back next week to replace some of the older wiring. The stuff behind the nursery wall is pretty worn out." As Dr. Harrison packed his equipment, he shared his preliminary findings with the Thompson family. "What you have here is truly remarkable," he said. "Rex's bond with Emma transcends normal animal behavior. He's not just protecting her, he's emotionally invested in her well-being in a way that mirrors parental instincts." The scientist's words filled Michael and Jessica with both pride and responsibility. They had always known Rex was special, but having an expert confirm the depth of the lion's attachment to their daughter made them realize how unique their situation truly was. Evening approached with Rex still displaying signs of restlessness. He would settle into his usual position near the nursery, only to rise and pace the perimeter of the house before returning to his post. His behavior was subtle but noticeable to the family, who had grown accustomed to his predictable routines. "Maybe he's sensing a storm coming," Jessica suggested as they prepared dinner. "Animals are supposed to be more sensitive to weather changes than we are." Michael checked the weather forecast on his phone, but the predictions showed clear skies for the next several days. "The barometric pressure seems stable," he said, though he made a mental note to keep monitoring Rex's behavior. As they settled in for the evening, Rex's restlessness seemed to subside slightly, though he remained more alert than usual. The lion positioned himself in the living room, where he could observe both the front and back entrances to the house while maintaining acoustic contact with the nursery. Tom Henderson's work had resolved the immediate electrical issues, but the aging infrastructure of the house remained a concern. The combination of old wiring, modern electronics, and the complex power systems created a situation that required careful monitoring and regular maintenance. Jessica performed her nightly routine of checking on Emma, adjusting the baby's blankets, and ensuring that all the monitoring equipment was functioning properly. The nursery felt peaceful and secure, with soft lighting and the gentle hum of the air filtration system creating an atmosphere of tranquil comfort. Neither Michael nor Jessica could have imagined that Rex's unusual behavior was a warning sign, his acute senses detecting the beginning of a chain of events that would soon test the very foundations of their family's safety and security. 3 days after Dr. Harrison's visit, the Montana wilderness began its spectacular transformation. Toward autumn, the aspen trees that dotted the landscape burst into brilliant shades of gold and amber, while the nights grew crisp with the promise of winter's approach. For the Thompson family, these seasonal changes brought both beauty and additional responsibilities as they prepared their home and animals for the colder months ahead. Jessica had been working late into the evening on a particularly challenging design project for a client in Seattle. The deadline was approaching, and she found herself dividing her attention between her computer screen and Emma's bassinet, which she had moved into her home office for the evening. The baby slept peacefully, surrounded by the soft glow of the desk lamp and the gentle clicking of Jessica's keyboard. "I think I'll finish this section and then call it a night," Jessica murmured to herself, glancing at the clock that showed nearly 11 p.m. Michael had already gone to bed, exhausted from a long day of winterizing the ranch's water systems and securing loose equipment against the stronger winds that autumn brought to the Montana plains. Outside, Rex maintained his vigilant watch from the back porch. The lion's behavior had remained slightly unusual since Dr. Harrison's visit, marked by periods of restlessness that seemed to follow no particular pattern. Tonight, however, he appeared more settled, lying in his customary position near the nursery, but with his head raised and ears alert to the sounds of the night. The house itself seemed to exhale and settle into the quiet rhythm of evening. The heating system, recently serviced for the approaching winter, cycled on and off with mechanical precision. Various electronic devices hummed softly throughout the house, from the baby monitors to the air purification systems, creating a technological symphony of modern family life. Jessica saved her work and carefully lifted Emma from the bassinet, marveling once again at how perfect and peaceful her daughter looked in sleep. The baby's tiny fingers were curled into delicate fists, and her breathing was slow and steady. These quiet moments of connection between mother and child had become precious to Jessica, offering a sense of completion and purpose that her previous life had never provided. As she carried Emma toward the nursery, Jessica noticed Rex rising. From his position outside, the lion moved with fluid grace to the window, his amber eyes following her movement through the glass. This had become part of their nightly ritual, with Rex observing the evening routine as if ensuring that his adopted family was safe and secure. The nursery welcomed them with its familiar warmth and comfort. Jessica had recently added new elements to the room, including a mobile with hand-carved wooden animals that cast gentle shadows on the walls when the nightlight illuminated them. The temperature control system maintained a perfect climate, while the humidifier added just enough moisture to combat the dry mountain air. As Jessica placed Emma in her crib, she noticed that one of the electrical outlets near the changing table was warm to the touch. It wasn't hot enough to be immediately concerning, but it was noticeably warmer than it should have been. She made a mental note to mention it to Michael in the morning and to call Tom Henderson to schedule a follow-up visit sooner than originally planned. Emma stirred slightly as she settled into her crib, her tiny mouth making soft, sucking motions as she dreamed. Jessica adjusted the blankets and activated the various monitoring devices that had become essential to her peace of mind. The baby monitor system, the breathing sensor, and the room temperature gauge all displayed reassuring green lights indicating normal conditions. Rex had positioned himself directly outside the nursery window, a behavior that had become increasingly consistent over the past week. Dr. Harrison had explained that this positioning allowed the lion to monitor the nursery acoustically, while maintaining a visual connection with the rest of the property. It was strategic thinking that spoke to Rex's intelligence and his deep commitment to protecting Emma. Before leaving the nursery, Jessica paused to check the various electronic devices one more time. The warm outlet continued to concern her, though it showed no signs of sparking or other immediate danger. The wiring that Tom Henderson had worked on seemed to be functioning properly, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was not quite right with the electrical system. Michael was already asleep when Jessica joined him in their bedroom. She set the baby monitor on her nightstand and plugged in her phone to charge overnight. The video feed from Emma's room showed their daughter sleeping peacefully, while the audio remained quiet except for the gentle sounds of her breathing. Sleep came easily to Jessica that night, aided by the exhaustion of balancing motherhood with her professional responsibilities. She had no way of knowing that several rooms away, the warm electrical outlet she had noticed was part of a larger problem developing within the house's aging wiring system. The electrical load in the nursery was higher than in most rooms, due to the concentration of monitoring equipment, climate control systems, and various electronic devices designed to ensure Emma's safety and comfort. The wiring behind the walls, some of which dated back to the original construction of the house, was struggling to handle the modern demands placed upon it. Rex remained alert throughout the early evening hours, his senses attuned to subtle changes in the environment that humans couldn't detect. The lion's extraordinary hearing allowed him to monitor not just Emma's breathing and movements, but also the mechanical sounds of the house itself. His nose, hundreds of times more sensitive than human smell, could detect chemical changes in the air that might indicate developing problems. As midnight approached, Rex exhibited a behavior that would have concerned the Thompson family had they been awake to observe it. The lion rose from his resting position and began a systematic patrol of the house's perimeter, his movements deliberate and focused. He paused at various points, lifting his head to test the air currents and listening intently to sounds that seemed to emanate from within the structure itself. The night air was crisp and clear, filled with the familiar sense of pine forest and mountain wildflowers. But Rex's keen senses detected something else, something subtle and concerning that triggered his protective instincts. His powerful muscles tensed as he completed his patrol and returned to his position near the nursery window. Inside the house, the Thompson family slept peacefully, unaware that their faithful guardian was beginning to sense the first signs of danger. The electrical system continued to function, but the stress on the aging wiring was increasing incrementally with each passing hour. Components that had been weakened by years of temperature changes and mechanical stress were approaching their limits. Emma slept soundly in her crib, surrounded by the electronic devices designed to monitor her well-being and ensure her safety. The irony that these very devices might be contributing to a developing electrical problem was lost on everyone except Rex, whose primitive instincts were beginning to register that something in his environment was changing. The house itself seemed to breathe with the rhythm of its sleeping occupants, the gentle creaking of wooden beams and the soft hum of various systems creating a peaceful nighttime soundtrack. But beneath this tranquil surface, forces were building that would soon transform their quiet sanctuary into something far more dangerous. Rex's vigil continued through the night, his amber eyes reflecting the moonlight as he maintained his watch over the family he had sworn to protect. His increasing restlessness was a warning sign that none of the humans in his care were equipped to understand, a primitive alarm system that evolution had programmed into his very DNA. As the hours passed and the night deepened, the stage was being set for events that would test the bonds of love and loyalty that held this unusual family together. At 3:17 a.m., when the world was wrapped in the deepest embrace of night, Rex's head snapped up from his resting position near the nursery window. His nostrils flared as he caught a scent that sent immediate alarm through his powerful frame. The lion's extraordinary senses had detected something that the house's sophisticated monitoring systems had not yet registered: the acrid smell of overheating electrical components. Inside the nursery, Emma slept peacefully in her crib, unaware that behind the wall, near her changing table, an electrical connection that had been gradually weakening was finally reaching its breaking point. The concentration of electronic devices in the room, combined with the aging wiring that Tom Henderson had warned about, created the perfect conditions for disaster. Rex rose to his feet with fluid grace, his massive form moving silently across the back porch. Every instinct in his body was screaming that something was wrong. Though the house appeared completely normal from the outside, the lion's acute hearing picked up a subtle change in the electrical humming that permeated the structure, a frequency shift that indicated developing trouble. In their bedroom, Michael and Jessica slept soundly, exhausted from their respective days. The baby monitor on Jessica's nightstand showed Emma's peaceful form, and all the electronic indicators displayed normal readings. The house's fire detection system, while modern and well-maintained, had not yet detected the problem that was developing behind the nursery wall. The electrical fault that had been building for weeks finally reached a critical point. A connection that had been gradually loosening due to thermal expansion and contraction suddenly failed completely, creating an arc that ignited the insulation materials surrounding the wiring. The fire started small, hidden within the wall cavity, but it found ample fuel in the dried wood and paper materials that had accumulated behind the panels over the years. Rex's behavior became increasingly agitated as the scent of burning materials reached his nose. The lion began pacing back and forth along the back porch, his powerful muscles tensed and ready for action. His amber eyes remained fixed on the nursery window, where Emma continued to sleep peacefully, unaware of the danger that was slowly building around her. Within minutes, the hidden fire had spread along the wiring channels, following the path of least resistance through the wall cavity. The flames remained concealed behind the finished walls, but the heat was beginning to affect the air temperature in the nursery. The climate control system, responding to the gradual increase in temperature, worked harder to maintain the preset conditions. Rex could wait no longer. His primitive instincts overrode any thought of protocol or permission. The lion moved to the back door, which Michael had left slightly ajar to allow air circulation on the warm autumn night. With careful precision, Rex pushed the door open with his massive head and slipped silently into the house. The interior of the house was dark, except for the soft glow of various indicator lights and the gentle illumination from the nursery nightlight. Rex moved through the familiar space with the confidence of a family member, his padded feet making no sound on the hardwood floors. Every sense was heightened as he made his way toward the nursery, where the scent of burning materials was becoming stronger. Emma's room was warm, warmer than it should have been at this hour of the night. The electronic monitoring systems were beginning to register the temperature increase, but their alarms were set to activate only when conditions became dangerous for the baby. Rex's senses, however, detected danger long before any machine could register it. The lion approached Emma's crib with infinite care, his massive form moving with the delicate precision of a creature who understood the fragility of the life before him. Emma stirred slightly in her sleep, her tiny hands moving restlessly as if some primitive part of her consciousness sensed the growing danger. Rex's acute hearing detected the first crackling sounds from within the wall, indicating that the hidden fire was beginning to consume more substantial materials. The The lion knew, with the certainty of instinct, that time was running out. He had to act now, before the situation became critical for the helpless infant in his care. With movements that demonstrated both incredible strength and remarkable gentleness, Rex carefully grasped the edge of Emma's blanket in his powerful jaws. The lion's bite, capable of crushing bone, was controlled with such precision that the fabric remained completely undamaged. Emma, still wrapped in her blanket, was lifted from the crib with the tenderness of a mother carrying her most precious possession. The baby stirred but did not wake as Rex began his careful journey out of the nursery. The lion's movements were deliberate and measured, each step calculated to ensure Emma's safety while moving her away from the growing danger. His powerful neck muscles supported the baby's weight effortlessly, while his keen senses monitored her breathing and heartbeat. As Rex carried Emma through the house, the first wisps of smoke began to seep through tiny cracks in the nursery wall. The fire, no longer confined to the wiring channels, was beginning to find its way into the room itself. The temperature was rising rapidly, and the electronic monitoring systems were finally starting to register alarm conditions. Rex moved through the back door and into the cool night air, where he gently placed Emma on the soft grass beneath a large pine tree. The baby, still wrapped in her protective blanket, remained peacefully asleep, her breathing steady and untroubled. The lion positioned himself protectively over her, his massive body forming a living shield against any potential threat. Inside the house, the fire had finally breached the wall cavity and was beginning to consume the nursery furniture. The flames, fed by the wooden crib and the fabric curtains, grew rapidly in intensity. The smoke detectors throughout the house began their piercing wail, while the automated fire suppression system activated, though its effectiveness was limited by the fire's location and intensity. Michael and Jessica were jolted awake by the cacophony of alarms. The sounds of the fire detection system, combined with the acrid smell of smoke, sent them into immediate panic. Jessica's first instinct was to check the baby monitor, but the screen showed only smoke and flickering light where Emma's crib should have been. "Emma!" Jessica's scream echoed through the house as she rushed toward the nursery, Michael close behind her. The hallway was beginning to fill with smoke, and the temperature was rising rapidly as the fire spread beyond its original location. When they reached the nursery door, they were met with a wall of heat and flame that made approach impossible. The room where their daughter had been sleeping was now an inferno, with fire consuming everything in its path. Jessica's anguished cries filled the air as she realized that her baby was trapped in the blazing room. "We have to call 911, Michael shouted, though his voice was nearly lost in the chaos of alarms and Jessica's desperate sobbing. "The fire department is 30 minutes away, but we have to try." In their panic and desperation, neither parent thought to look outside, where their faithful guardian maintained his vigil over the most precious member of their family. Rex lay protectively beside Emma, his amber eyes reflecting the orange glow of the flames that were now visible through the nursery window. The lion's extraordinary senses had detected the danger before any human or electronic system could respond. His primitive instincts and deep love for the Thompson family had driven him to take action that defied all conventional understanding of animal behavior. In the space of a few critical minutes, Rex had transformed from pet to savior, demonstrating the kind of heroism that transcends species boundaries. Michael's hands trembled as he dialed 911, his voice barely coherent as he tried to explain their desperate situation to the emergency dispatcher. "Our house is on fire, and our baby, our 3-month-old daughter, she's trapped in the nursery." The words felt like shards of glass in his throat as he struggled to maintain composure while Jessica's anguished cries echoed through the smoke-filled hallway. "Sir, help is on the way." The dispatcher's calm voice came through the phone. The fire department and paramedics are en route, but it will take approximately 25 minutes to reach your location. You and your wife need to evacuate the house immediately. Do not attempt to enter the burning room. But Jessica was beyond rational thought. The sight of flames consuming the nursery where Emma had been sleeping just minutes before had shattered her world completely. She clawed at Michael's arms, trying to push past him toward the inferno that had once been their daughter's sanctuary. "I have to get her," Jessica screamed, her voice hoarse with smoke and desperation. "Emma is in there, my baby is in there." Her maternal instincts overrode every concern for her own safety as she fought against Michael's restraining arms. Michael's own heart was breaking as he held his wife back from the flames. Every fiber of his being wanted to charge into that burning room, but he knew it would be impossible. The heat was so intense that they couldn't even approach the doorway, and the smoke was becoming thicker with each passing second. "Jessica, we can't help Emma if we don't survive this ourselves," Michael said, though his own voice cracked with emotion. "The fire department will be here soon. They have equipment, oxygen masks, they can get to her." But even as he spoke the words, Michael's heart was filled with despair. 25 minutes was an eternity in a fire situation. No one could survive that long in such conditions, especially not a helpless infant. The reality of their loss was beginning to sink in, though neither parent was ready to accept it. The flames in the nursery suddenly flared higher as they found new fuel, and a window exploded outward from the intense heat. Glass shards scattered across the back porch, and the sound was like a gunshot in the night air. The explosion illuminated the entire backyard in an orange glow, casting dancing shadows across the landscape. It was in this moment of devastating illumination that Michael caught sight of something that made his heart stop. There, beneath the large pine tree at the edge of their property, was a sight that defied all logic and reason. Rex, their magnificent lion, was lying protectively beside a small bundle wrapped in a familiar pink blanket. "Jessica," Michael whispered, his voice barely audible above the chaos. "Jessica, look." At first, Jessica couldn't process what her husband was trying to show her. Her eyes were filled with tears, and her mind was consumed with grief. But as Michael gently turned her toward the window, she saw what had captured his attention. Emma was alive. Their daughter lay peacefully on the soft grass, still wrapped in the blanket that Jessica had tucked around her just hours before. Rex was positioned beside her like a living statue, his massive form creating a protective barrier between the baby and the burning house. The lion's amber eyes reflected the firelight as he maintained his vigil, alert and ready to defend his precious charge against any threat. "Oh my God," Jessica breathed, her voice barely a whisper. "Oh my God, Michael, she's alive! Emma is alive!" The transformation in Jessica was instantaneous. The despair that had consumed her moments before was replaced by overwhelming joy and disbelief. She stumbled toward the back door, Michael close behind her, both of them moving as if in a dream. Outside, the cool night air was a sharp contrast to the heat and smoke they had left behind. Their bare feet touched the dew-covered grass as they ran toward the pine tree where their daughter lay safe under Rex's protection. The distance seemed to stretch on forever, though it was only a few dozen yards. Rex's head lifted as he saw them approaching, but he didn't move from his protective position. The lion's behavior was calm and controlled, as if he understood that his mission was nearly complete, but that he must remain vigilant until the parents could take over his guardianship duties. Jessica reached Emma first, falling to her knees beside the tiny form. Her hands shook as she carefully examined her daughter, checking for any signs of injury or distress. Emma was completely unharmed, her breathing steady and peaceful, her tiny face showing no awareness of the drama that had unfolded around her. "She's a perfect Jessica sobbed, gathering Emma into her arms. "She's completely perfect, not a scratch, not even a mark." Michael knelt beside his wife and daughter, his own eyes filled with tears of relief and amazement. He reached out to touch Rex's massive head, running his fingers through the lion's golden mane. "You saved her," he whispered. "Rex, you saved our daughter's life." The lion accepted Michael's touch with quiet dignity, his amber eyes reflecting, an intelligence and understanding that seemed almost human. Rex had done what his instincts and his love for this family had demanded. He had protected the most vulnerable member of his pride, risking his own safety to ensure Emma's survival. As they sat on the grass, holding their daughter and marveling at their miraculous escape, the sound of approaching sirens began to echo across the Montana landscape. The fire department, paramedics, and police were finally arriving, their flashing lights visible through the trees as they navigated the winding road to the ranch. "How did he know?" Jessica asked, her voice filled with wonder as she looked at Rex. "How did he know to take Emma out of the house before the fire spread?" Michael shook his head, still struggling to comprehend what had happened. "His senses are so much more acute than ours," he said. "He must have smelled the smoke or heard something that we couldn't detect, but to actually enter the house and carry Emma to safety." The implications of Rex's actions were staggering. The lion had not only detected the danger before any human or electronic system could respond, but he had also taken decisive action to protect Emma. His movements had been careful and calculated, demonstrating a level of intelligence and emotional connection that challenged everything they thought they knew about animal behavior. The first fire truck rounded the final bend in their driveway, its powerful headlights illuminating the scene. The firefighters could see the flames still consuming the back portion of the house, but they could also see the Thompson family safe on the lawn with their unusual guardian. Captain Rodriguez, the fire chief, approached them with cautious steps. He had been briefed about the lion during the drive to the ranch, but seeing Rex in person was still a startling experience. The massive predator lay calmly beside the family, showing no signs of aggression or fear despite the chaos around them. "Everyone, okay? Here?" Captain Rodriguez asked, his trained eyes quickly assessing the situation. "We got your call about the baby being trapped in the fire." "She's safe," Michael said, his voice thick with emotion. "Rex saved her. He carried her out of the house before the fire spread to her room." The fire chief looked at the lion with new respect, understanding immediately the significance of what had occurred. In his 20 years of fighting fires, he had seen many acts of heroism, but never anything quite like this. As the firefighters worked to contain the blaze, paramedics examined Emma thoroughly, confirming that she had suffered no ill effects from her experience. The baby slept peacefully through the entire examination, seemingly unaware that she had been at the center of a life-threatening emergency. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, their veterinarian, arrived within an hour of the emergency call. She had heard about the fire on her scanner and immediately drove to the ranch, knowing that Rex's welfare would be a concern for the Thompson family, even in the midst of their crisis. "He's showing no signs of stress or injury," Dr. Mitchell reported after a thorough examination of Rex. "His behavior is completely normal, though I can see heightened alertness, which is to be expected given the circumstances." As dawn broke over the Montana landscape, the fire was finally under control. The nursery and the back portion of the house had been severely damaged, but the structure was salvageable. More importantly, the Thompson family was intact, their bond strengthened by the extraordinary events of the night. Rex had proven himself to be more than just a pet, or even a family member. He had become a guardian angel, a protector whose love and loyalty had literally saved a life. The story of his heroic actions would soon spread far beyond the boundaries of their ranch, touching the hearts of people around the world. 3 weeks after the fire, The Thompson Ranch had transformed into something resembling a media circus. News vans lined the gravel driveway, while reporters from across the country sought interviews with the family, whose lion had performed what experts were calling one of the most remarkable acts of animal heroism ever documented. Michael and Jessica, still processing the magnitude of what Rex had done, found themselves thrust into an international spotlight they had never anticipated. "The footage is absolutely incredible," said Amanda Chen, a producer from National Geographic, who had flown in from Washington, D.C. to document Rex's story. "The security cameras captured everything. You can actually see Rex entering the house, going straight to the nursery and carrying Emma to safety. The timing was perfect. He got her out just minutes before the room became completely engulfed." The insurance investigation had revealed that the fire started exactly as Michael had suspected, from the aging electrical wiring behind the nursery wall. The concentration of electronic monitoring devices had overloaded the old system, creating the perfect conditions for the disaster. What investigators couldn't explain was how Rex had detected the problem so much earlier than any of their sophisticated detection equipment. "His olfactory capabilities are extraordinary," explained Dr. Harrison, who had returned to conduct follow-up behavioral studies. Rex was able to detect the chemical changes in the air caused by overheating electrical components at least 15 minutes before the fire actually started. But what's truly remarkable is his decision-making process. He didn't just detect danger, he formulated and executed a rescue plan. The rebuilt nursery was now a showcase of both modern safety technology and thoughtful design. Michael had insisted on completely upgrading the electrical system throughout the house, installing industrial-grade wiring and redundant safety systems. But the most significant change was the addition of a special access door that allowed Rex to move freely between the outside and Emma's room whenever his protective instincts deemed it necessary. Emma, now 6 months old, had developed an extraordinary bond with her four-legged guardian. She would laugh and reach for Rex whenever he appeared, her tiny hands grasping at his golden mane with the fearless curiosity of a child who had known only love and protection from the magnificent creature. Rex, in turn, seemed to understand that his most important responsibility was ensuring Emma's continued safety and happiness. The story had gone viral on social media platforms around the world. Videos of Rex lying protectively beside Emma while she played on her blanket had been viewed millions of times, with comments pouring in from people expressing their amazement and gratitude for the lion's heroic actions. The hashtag #JarRexTheHero had trending worldwide for over a week, inspiring countless stories about the remarkable bonds that can form between humans and animals. Dr. Sarah Mitchell had been fielding calls from veterinary schools and animal behavior institutes requesting information about Rex's unique socialization and training. What the Thompson family achieved with Rex challenges many of our assumptions about predator domestication, she explained to a group of veterinary students who had traveled from Colorado State University to observe Rex firsthand. The level of trust and emotional connection they've developed is unprecedented in my experience. The financial impact of the media attention had been unexpectedly positive for the Thompson family. Book deals, documentary rights, and speaking engagements had provided them with resources to not only rebuild their home, but to expand their wildlife preserve significantly. They had established the Rex Foundation, dedicated to supporting wildlife rescue operations and educating the public about responsible exotic animal care. "We never intended to become public figures," Jessica admitted during an interview with Good Morning America, But if sharing Rex's story helps people understand the incredible intelligence and emotional capacity of animals, then we're honored to be part of that conversation. Michael had been approached by several universities to collaborate on research projects studying human-animal bonds. The University of Montana had offered him a position as a visiting researcher, allowing him to formalize his work with Rex while continuing to operate their private preserve. The scientific community was particularly interested in understanding how Rex's early socialization had influenced his protective behaviors toward Emma. The local community had embraced the Thompson family's newfound fame with typical Montana pride. Tom Henderson, the electrician whose work had prevented an even worse disaster, found himself booked solid with requests from homeowners wanting to upgrade their electrical systems. People figure if it's good enough for the family with the famous lion, it's good enough for them, he said with a grin. Captain Rodriguez and his firefighting crew had been honored by the state of Montana for their response to the emergency, but they were quick to point out that the real hero of the night had been Rex. "We see a lot of tragedy in this job," Rodriguez explained. "It's rare that we get to witness something that restores your faith in the profound connections that exist in nature." The insurance settlement had been complicated by the unique circumstances of the case. The adjusters had never dealt with a claim where a lion had actually prevented a total loss by rescuing a family member from a burning building. After extensive investigation and consultation with animal behavior experts, they had ruled that Rex's actions constituted a legitimate, life-saving intervention, resulting in a full settlement that covered both the fire damage and the costs of upgrading the safety systems. Emma's pediatrician, Dr. Rebecca Martinez, had been monitoring the baby's development closely, concerned about potential psychological effects from her traumatic experience. Remarkably, Emma shows no signs of stress or developmental delays, Dr. Martinez reported. If anything, her bond with Rex seems to have given her an unusual sense of security and confidence for a child her age. The rebuilt ranch house incorporated numerous design features that accommodated Rex's role as Emma's protector. Special viewing windows allowed him to observe the nursery from outside, while reinforced doors could withstand his considerable strength if he needed to gain access quickly. The family had also installed a sophisticated early warning system that would alert Rex to potential dangers through a combination of audio signals and scent markers. Rex himself seemed largely unaffected by his celebrity status, maintaining his focus on his primary responsibility of protecting Emma. His daily routines remained consistent, though he now had to navigate around the occasional photographer or documentary crew. The lion's calm demeanor and obvious intelligence impressed every visitor, reinforcing the remarkable nature of his relationship with the Thompson family. Dr. Harrison's ongoing research had revealed fascinating details about Rex's cognitive abilities. He demonstrates problem-solving skills that rival those of great apes, the behaviorist explained. His ability to assess a complex situation, formulate a plan, and execute it under pressure suggests a level of intelligence that we're only beginning to understand. The story had inspired legislative discussions about exotic animal ownership and care standards. Rather than pushing for more restrictive laws, many lawmakers were using the Thompson family's example to advocate for better education and support systems for responsible exotic animal owners. Their success in creating a safe, loving environment for Rex while maintaining public safety had become a model for similar situations across the country. As autumn returned to Montana, the Thompson family reflected on how dramatically their lives had changed. The fire had destroyed part of their home, but had revealed the true depth of Rex's devotion to their family. The experience had strengthened their bonds with each other and had given them a platform to advocate for better understanding between humans and animals. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if Rex hadn't been there that night. Jessica said, holding Emma while the baby played with a toy that Rex had gently retrieved for her. But then I realize that dwelling on what might have been isn't as important as appreciating what we have now. The daily rhythm of their lives had found a new normal that incorporated their public responsibilities with their private joys. Emma continued to grow and develop under Rex's watchful eye, her laughter filling the rebuilt house with the sound of innocence and joy. The lion's presence provided not just physical protection, but emotional security for the entire family. Michael had begun writing a book about their experience, hoping to share not just the dramatic story of the rescue, but the deeper lessons about trust, love, and the remarkable bonds that can form across species lines. Rex didn't save Emma because he was trained to do so, Michael wrote in his draft. He saved her because he loved her, and love creates its own kind of intelligence. The scientific community continued to study Rex's behavior, seeking to understand the mechanisms behind his extraordinary actions. But for the Thompson family, the explanations mattered less than the gratitude they felt every day for their four-legged guardian who had risked everything to protect the most precious member of their family. As the sun set over the Montana wilderness, on this crisp autumn evening, Rex took his customary position near Emma's window. The baby slept peacefully in her rebuilt nursery, surrounded by the most advanced safety systems money could buy, but protected most of all by the unwavering devotion of a lion who had chosen love over instinct, family over wildness, and heroism over safety. The story of Rex and Emma had touched hearts around the world, reminding people that the bonds of love and loyalty know no boundaries. In a time when divisions seemed to dominate headlines, their tale offered hope that connection and compassion could overcome any obstacle, even the most fundamental differences between species. The Thompson family had learned that heroes don't always wear capes or carry badges. Sometimes they have golden manes and amber eyes, and they prove their worth not through words, but through actions that speak to the very essence of what it means to love unconditionally. We hope Rex and Emma's incredible story has touched your heart as deeply as it has ours. This remarkable tale of courage, love, and the unbreakable bonds that can form between humans and animals reminds us that true heroism comes in many forms. If you were moved by Rex's unwavering devotion to baby Emma and the Thompson family's extraordinary journey, we have more incredible stories waiting for you. Click the playlist on your left to discover other amazing tales of animal heroism and human-animal bonds that will restore your faith in the power of love and loyalty. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up if Rex's story inspired you. We bring you these remarkable true stories every day because we believe in the power of storytelling to connect us all. Share your thoughts about Rex and Emma in the comments below. We'd love to hear how their story affected you. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey, and we'll see you in our next incredible tale.